Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Buy Round Midweek Preview Show. As always, I'm your host, James Graham. I am joined by Charlie White.
Good to see your face, Jimmy.
Yeah, likewise, mate. It's been a while since the midweek show's been recorded, filmed. So
name TBC.
Yeah, we've
got to figure out a name.
We do.
If you've got any ideas for a name, feel free to reach out. Let us know.
Nothing.
Because I can't think of anything for it. The midweek preview show. Well, it's not always a preview show because there's no games to preview.
No, there's no games to preview, but there's plenty to chat about.
There's plenty to chat about, for sure.
We probably do need something better than the Buy Round Midweek Preview Show. It's a bit long.
Touch long. It's not sexy, is it?
I mean, is there a show name that's sexy? I don't know.
Well, there's a third show that's coming. I've got a pretty sexy name for that. That's coming during the footy season. So
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it should be good. Stay tuned, everyone. That's going to come very, very soon.
But on to business, Charlie.
Yeah.
There's never a quiet time in rugby league, is there?
No. Although it has been a quieter off-season than some. Like there hasn't been as many scandals, it feels like.
Still time.
There's still a few weeks to go.
Trust the idiot. Yeah. Like only a fool would say that.
Yeah, that's true. I've jinxed it now.
Yeah. Watch out this weekend. It's going to be carnage.
Yeah. Are you feeling all right? Because you obviously went to the wrong place today. So
yeah, I am, Charlie. I did go to the wrong studio.
Yeah.
Not the first time. We've got directions and places.
I don't know if I even told you though. To be honest, I don't know if I told you which studio we were at.
I'm not going to blame you.
Yeah.
I should have been across it.
You know, there's a thing I've been reading about lately called habits, like the habit loop, and because you've been going to Bloke the last couple of times. You're cue to go to Bloke. You didn't even think about it. You're an autopilot.
I'll take that.
You know? So you got to try and break your habit cycle. Look out, see the world. You know?
This is all great advice, and I'm absorbing this advice, and the habits aren't going to change.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough.
Off this little chat.
No, but speaking of habits, the NRL is stuck in a habit loop of not being able to sort its salary cap situation.
Well, it's not the salary cap.
No.
It's not the salary cap.
Yeah.
It's a CBA.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference because I think there's a bit of a narrative out there that it's greedy players. They want more. But I think quite clearly this isn't about money in your back pocket or in your bank account. It's about something bigger than that. Clearly it is, because we saw the offer that got made, and it's a huge jump. But that, for me, if you can't read between the lines that it's not about money, then you need to educate, because it's clearly not. The players are saying it's not about money. What the NRL released is phenomenal from a financial point of view, but it seems that there's some other sticking points that need to be resolved.
Yeah, and I think they've already agreed the salary cap number, so that's actually, it definitely isn't about money because they've agreed that. They're just trying to sort some other things. Which
I think that's more for the clubs as well.
Yeah,
give the clubs, a figure.
Yeah,
so they can piece together their roster.
Yeah,
because unfortunately there was some players there that were unsure because. And the clubs would go the default position of, well, we don't know what we can offer you.
Yeah.
Because we've not got it in place. And obviously it's a substantial number. But I just can't understand why it's taken so long.
Well, it's taking so long because they started it so late as well. That's what the RLPA is saying.
Let's hope that all parties learn from this. And the next time that the CBA is up, we don't go through this again. Because, again, you just touched on it before that there's been there's been some, off-field incidents and news stories happen this off-season. But, again, the focus is on, it's a talking point, isn't it? And it probably shouldn't be. And it's unnecessary, and it's for me. It's clearly not about the money. And look, the these negotiations are very complex, but the rugby league playing group is a very tight knit group, and yes, we belt the living daylights out of each other, but we look after each other as well. And I think we're seeing that with some of the statements and comments from some of the players that I've read and listened to, in terms of we want to look after those players at the bottom end of the scale. We want to make sure that they're looked after in terms of like minimum wage and basic medical requirements, etc., etc. So it's not
injury hardship's a big thing as well.
Injury hardship, for some players, they would do extremely well financially out of the game, but for every Nathan Cleary, there's some players that would be not living on the breadline, but that they're earning good money, but not substantial sums that are going to set them up for life or give them the potential to. And yet they do live a great life. But I think it's important. The point I'm trying to make is that the main players are trying to look after those guys. They're trying to look after the players that have dug the well, which is incredibly important. So that's it. It's that tight-knit family. And, they're looking at, in terms of a playing group, we're all brothers, and they're looking after the sisters as well.
Yeah.
With what's going on in the women's game, because there's some terms and conditions around their work environment and their season structure and all that sort of stuff that, it's clear that they care.
Yeah.
They care about each other in that rugby league family. So it's important that they stand up for each other. And for me, it's nice to see them show some fight. But I guess this ideally would have been concluded a long time ago and not being played out in the public. And it would be nice to be, like I say, next time, hey, we've signed the CBA, this is what we've got, this is the cap, these are some of the things that we've done. Brilliant. Happy days.
Well, you speak about those lower end of the footy, those lower end players. The average footy career is like 43 games. So if you're a fringe first grader and you sign for an NRL club at 20, by 25 you're probably doing something else with your life. That's the reality. So even if you are earning $100,000 a year for 5 years, you're definitely not set up for life.
No.
So these things, they're sort of talking about retirement funds for players, retirement programs to help them find careers post-footy, injury hardship. So a guy like Aaron Booth last year, he did his ACL just as he was negotiating his contract with the Titans. He had a deal almost there, does his ACL, deal's off. He's just managed to re-sign with the Titans, but a player like him could easily then be lost to the game, lose their career, and they don't get another option. So to have things in place for players like that, it's the fair thing to do, because when I go to work, I don't have to worry about doing my ACL, my contract being taken away from me. And if I did, surely I should get some sort of medical insurance for something like that when it's big money and their careers are so short. Yeah. It seems like common sense. And I asked Wade Graham about what the main things were, and he said we've had some really positive discussions yesterday, and they've got another meeting today, so hopefully moving forward. It's the past players fund, the transition fund, that's the retirement thing I was talking about, injury hardship, and then also the RLPA wants to take away autonomy from the NRL so they can work together and move forward. So when they make changes that affect the players, they get a say in it as well.
Well, I think that I think for me that's fair. If the rules of play or the competition structure are to change, why wouldn't you want some player input? There's some good minds in that playing group. Why wouldn't you want to tap into that? And I guess having that part of the formal process, that's the stakeholder that's going to be affected the most by a competition restructure or change in rules. And it could be, and it more than likely it will be for the greater good of the game. But I think it's important that you bring the players along with you. For me, it's common sense.
The preseason starts next weekend, so it will be interesting to see if it gets sorted for them. And if it's not sorted, if we do see strikes, games not held, I wonder if the All-Star game, if that goes ahead, particularly the women's game, because they'd be playing without insurance, I believe. Somewhere I was reading that online. So the women's All-Star game might not go ahead. We'll see.
it's too important on the calendar for that not to go ahead. They'd have to get some temporary measures in place. It's too important, and you know, New Zealand has gone through a lot with COVID. That game being held over there, it's too important not to go ahead.
It's in Auckland as well, where the floods were just recently as well.
Yeah, it's too important not to go ahead.
Yeah.
That can't be sacrificed.
Yeah. Well, your new club, Jimmy, they've announced their captains. I think we spoke about it maybe in the last episode, who they would pick, and I think you said Marnie, Burton, someone along those lines. They've gone for Fatala Mariner as the club captain, the off-field captain, and then on the field it's Marnie and Burton. Do you like that?
I don't mind, actually. Look, I mean, people will point to examples of the Tigers, where they're 5 captains, and whether or not that worked or not, I guess results dictate that. But whether you had 1 captain or 5 captains at the Tigers during that period, I don't know if that would have made much difference anyway. And just because it's not worked before and the sample size is small, doesn't mean that it won't work moving forward. I do like how it's clear in roles. It's not, hey, here's our 3 skippers and 2 supporting and leadership group, and it'll mix around on the day. It's like, okay, Ray's there to look after the club culture. He's one of the more senior players at the club. And I think that will really help him grow as a person and as a player. And, you know, I played a little bit with Ray, and you know, he was very quiet. It was a long time ago, but I think this will help bring out that voice of his, which is going to be so important. And then Burton and Marnie are 2 fantastic players, and they'll split that role. I think I read Marnie's never been in a leadership group before. Obviously, Burton's very young, but the star player. So they will help and complement one another. I think what this really shows to me is that just how much of a shock and surprise the retirement of Josh Jackson was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think anybody saw it coming. It's not my story to tell, but that's what I've got, you know, from people at Canterbury. It was just like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? You know? Like, oh, no, I'm done. You know, Jacko didn't have something else lined up. It's just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Which
I think took everybody off guard. Caught everybody off guard. And I guess time will tell, but you know, I back Cam Serraldo and what he's doing. What I do really like about this setup is the fact that, like I say, it's clear, defined roles. You look after this, you look after this, because there are a lot of demands on the captains, and you know, most clubs would have a leadership group where that responsibility is shared anyway. So, I guess I back them to do it, and I don't mind what they've done. I guess it's one of them. If you know, what you've got to be ready for is if results don't go your way, people will point to that. But I'm sure Cam's got a plan.
When you were captain of the Doggies, would you have appreciated having a co-captain?
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have really cared.
Would you make a lot of team talks and stuff like that?
I was normally pretty vocal in the dressing rooms, just reinforcing the messages, what we plan to do.
The story about Gus Gould's spending, maybe must have been your salary. Your salary must have been quite a bit. It's causing some issues at the Doggies. But is that just sort of a storm in the teacup, that story? Like, do the Dogs probably need to spend a bit of money to get out of the hole they've been in the last few years, you would think?
Well, I think it's smart money that's being spent as well. No doubt the long-term plan will be to produce their own, but at the moment they're in a position where they've got to spend. They get a salary. You've got to spend your salary cap.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
Yep.
You got to spend your cap, and that is what it is. And they've signed the player from the Broncos and they paid a transfer fee, but I don't think their outgoings would be too much more than any other club. And I think, from a little insight there, they are looking to produce more local juniors that come through the system, which I think would be it's the way to go.
Nice.
It's the way to go.
Well, a man who does take up a lot of a salary cap for the Manly Seagulls, Tom Trbojevic, he's back from the US and he's playing round 1, which is amazing news for Manly.
That is huge news. Obviously, it's against the Bulldogs as well. All eyes are going to be on him, aren't they? Like a lot of eyes on Manly, how they go with the new coach. We had Anthony Seibold in not long ago, and a very smart person, smart man, seems to know his stuff. A lot of pressure and expectation on him as a coach and how he brings together I think was quite clearly a split Manly group. But then bang, all eyes are on Tommy Turbo, who, when he's at his best, he's up there with Tedesco, isn't he? Like, it's incredibly difficult to split when he's playing his best, but it's been, and it basically didn't play last year. He is under that injury cloud, I guess. Yeah, when you've got a superstar like him, you might need to send him to America to get it right. I guess, as a fan of the game and a fan of his, like, watching him play is great entertainment. Like, his involvement is insane. His speed, his movement, his ability to break a tackle. Like, I want to see him play. What are we playing? 26 rounds?
27.
27. I want to play. I want to see as a fan, as a viewer of our sport. Hope he plays every single game for Manly, apart from when he can't back up from Origin.
Yeah.
But because again, like, you can look at Manly and what happened last year, but I think it might be a different story if he was in the team.
Well, I think that the Hello Sport boys, where we are at the moment, they call him, say he's a 40-point player. Where do you actually see Manly if he's out? What's their sort of ceiling in terms of, like, are they going to be more towards the bottom of the ladder, and then with Turbo, are they top 4 or are they more lower part of the top 8? Where do you see it?
Is the difference between them making the 8 and not?
Yeah. Simple as that.
Simple as that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've got 5 shows until the season starts for this midweek show, and we're going to preview a few clubs each week. So today we're doing the Knights, the Dolphins and the Panthers, and we'll start with the Knights because we had Jackson Hastings on Sunday and that was a fascinating chat, so I really appreciate Jackson Hastings coming on. It's O'Brien's 4th year now in charge, and his win record is 41%. He obviously took over from Nathan Brown because they thought they should have been a finals team year in, year out. They made finals in his first 2 years, I think coming 7th both years, but getting knocked out in the first week of finals. This year they've got some good players coming in with Jacko, Adam Elliott, Lockie Miller they've signed as well. But I mean, they finished 14th last year, so there's a lot of improvement they need to do to make that top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack Hetherington as well. He's a
man of your heart.
He's a firecracker, isn't he? Obviously, they lose David Clemmer, but they bring him in. So,
Clemmer's a big loss, though. He was their best player last year.
He was.
Like, you can't sugarcoat that.
No,
that is a big loss.
He was, but from a Knights point of view, you got the 2 Saifiti boys, Clemmer and Hetherington. Like, there's 4 top quality front rowers. Like, do you need 4 at that caliber in a team? I'd say you probably don't.
Yep.
Especially when it compromises other positions. They've I think Clune did a decent enough job, but they need an actual genuine number 7, which Jackson Hastings is. And I think we've already said this, from that deal, I think both teams win.
Yep.
So a lot of talk about Ponga moving into the 5'8" position. Again, we speak about Tommy Turbo. Are the hopes of the Knights on one man. Is he the difference between them making the 8 and not? I think,
Well, he's another guy you can't guarantee he's playing every week as well. He's missed a lot of games the last few years.
Yeah. Ponga plays every game, and he plays like he at his potential, like he does in some of those State of Origin games. Knights will be in with a chance.
Yeah.
If not, it's might be another year similar to last year. And that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody, but that's just that's the type of player that he is. He can be so influential as well. And when you're playing with a player like Ponga, who's so influential on the result, it brings everybody else's game up, because what he can do, and same with Turbo, they instill so much belief in those other guys around them, and they almost, not embarrass, but they make you play better, because it's like, well, if this guy's doing all this stuff, well, I'm on. They get into the ability to have a more dedicated attitude, and when you're in those close games, if you've got Ponga there who's killing it, you go harder, because your chances of coming out the other end of this increase.
Yeah.
Because he's more likely to do something spectacular. But if he's not on the field, there are some other strike there within Newcastle. But really, they need him to have a phenomenal year, in my opinion. They got some other strike that no doubt need to perform. Bradman Best is a quality centre. Hopefully he can stay fit for the majority of the year as well, and I think that's what it's going to come down to for the Knights is that keeping their best 17 on the field, because on paper you look at it and they've got a good team, very good team. I mean,
several representative players. If you've got several representative players, you probably should be in the top 8.
Yeah, and you think back to last year, and they really did fade, and belief was you could just see that they'd lost belief in themselves, or that's how they certainly presented to me as a spectator. But Ponga can give you that sense of like say your belief, and you look at the start of last season. Was it round 1 they played the Roosters and and they blew them off the park? And you're like, wow, here they are. So they've got evidence there that they can do it. It's just doing it week in, week out, which is difficult. And
injuries did kill them. That's probably why Adam O'Brien wasn't under as much pressure. But if they don't go well this year, he going into the season could be the most under pressure coach, Adam O'Brien. They lose the first few games. Like, I can't think of a coach that would be under more pressure than him. Maybe the Titans.
I hate this chat, but
it's the reality. You've got a roster that good. You've got a roster that good. Like, and Adam O'Brien, a 41% win record, when the guy before you they got rid of Nathan Brown because they didn't think he was going to get them into the finals. Like, Nathan Brown has arguably done a better job of the Knights.
Yeah, or like Charlie, I hate this chat, but there's no denying it. He is under pressure.
Yeah. If Ponga doesn't fire and the Knights fall away, I think Adam O'Brien would get sacked in the first half of the year, I would think.
Yeah, it'd be good to see how him and Hastings combine, and how Hastings can unlock him and take a bit of pressure off him, because I know when you speak about players that have such a high influence on that other team's performance, you'd be naive to think that the opposition coaches aren't going, well, let's do this to him. You make life as difficult as possible. But if you've got Hastings as a bit of a, not a foil, but like that first receiver that can cause damage on his own, you overplay your hand on Ponga, and then Hastings will tear you in half. So that's something I'm excited to see. It's not about Hastings just giving Ponga the ball every time he wants it. It's about creating enough doubt in the defence and recognising when the opportunity's there to give him the ball, and also him being a run threat as well.
Well, let's move on to the Dolphins then. The team on paper doesn't look like a finals team. It looks more like a bottom 4 team. Looking at here, their best team, they've got obviously got the Kafusi and the Bromwich brothers are there. Thomas Gilbert looked like a good player last year. Their back line looks a bit weak. And their bench is all right with like guys like Ewan Aitken, Mark Nichols, Jared Wallace. But it could be a very long year for the Dolphins.
Well, you know who will be enjoying that is the coach.
Yes. He would be happy that no one's put any pressure on them. Everyone's writing them off.
Expectation is, like you say,
Zero. I think they're the favourites for the wooden spoon at the moment on the betting agencies.
And Wayne Bennett will be loving that.
Yeah.
Absolutely loving it. So I just can't bring myself to back against a Wayne Bennett team. I don't think at this stage they're in a position to play finals, but I think they'll be competitive this year. And you look at that pack and you go, well, you've got half of Melbourne Storm's starting pack from last year. It's not a bad start. And then
but those guys, they faded a bit last year, the Bromwich brothers. They look like they took sort of a backward step.
I don't know about that, but I think, their back row is incredibly strong. And look, Wayne will be pushing those buttons. Like they're not going to be an easy team to play against. And, there's still time yet for them to, mid-season transfers and stuff like that. And I actually genuinely think they'll go all right and they'll be very competitive.
What do you reckon where do you reckon they'll finish then?
Look, I like I say, I don't think they'll make the 8.
Yep.
But I guess I don't know. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to.
You're not going to go. I reckon if you're being, you just love Wayne Bennett so much. I reckon if you're being honest,
I do.
That's probably the team that could finish towards the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, maybe they will.
Yeah,
but I think the important thing to note is I think they'll be competitive.
Do you reckon the NRL maybe should have done a bit more? Like So NBA, when they have an expansion team,
they have expansion draft.
Have expansion draft, yeah.
Well, we don't have a draft though.
No, I know, but could you have some players be available, make them available for the Dolphins just to boost them up?
I would love an expansion draft.
Yeah.
Do you know that's what screwed Dennis Rodman over?
Was it?
Have you seen Bad Boys?
Yeah. The Detroit Pistons. Yeah.
Love that. Way better than
The Last Dance. Yeah. I mean, they're both very good.
I've not seen The Last Dance.
Oh, well then how can you say it's way better then? You haven't even seen it.
You know why? Because loads of Muppets watch it. Have you seen The Last Dance? And you're like, the fact that you've watched it means I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
And I say, have you seen Bad Boys? What's that? There you go.
There you go, yeah.
There you go.
So you're an elitist when it comes to basketball
not an elitist.
Sounds like a bit elitist.
Not elitist. I just know that certain people watch something.
Yeah.
I won't watch it.
So you prefer sort of underground dog stuff?
Yeah.
You don't watch anything mainstream?
No, I do.
Did you watch White Lotus?
Nope. I don't know what that is. I do watch mainstream stuff, Charlie.
Yeah.
But with things like documentaries and sports ones specifically. And look, I probably should watch The Last Dance because I imagine it is good.
It's very good, yeah.
Yeah.
Bad Boys might be better. Bad Boys was very good.
You know, okay, Michael Jordan, probably the best basketballer that's ever lived. Well, of course he's good. Like, they're going to talk about how great they were, but I don't know, there's something about the underdog and the story, the narrative around Detroit and the city, and they played a bit dirty.
Yeah.
The fact that they walked off.
Yeah.
And
well, they talk about him walking off in The Last Dance because Michael Jordan hates Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah.
With passion. But that Detroit team had his number. That's probably the only team that really had his number when he was sort of moving towards his prime.
I believe inspired Jordan
to
like train hard and get that physique.
Yeah.
Because he needed to be physical against Detroit.
Yeah.
But what were we talking about again? We've gone there.
Should the NRL done more?
Should the NRL have an expansion draft? It would be good.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see.
It'd be great to see. And you can lock your superstars in.
Yeah, well, but also can you imagine? So say each team gets to protect 3 players.
Yeah, that's how they do in the NBA.
Yeah,
so you can lock in.
But that all comes public knowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can imagine not that. Well, no, there are probably some egos. It's like,
Didn't want me.
You didn't want to protect me.
What would the Storm do? They've got Munster, Hughes, Grant, and Pappenhausen.
Oh,
how do you decide which 3 there?
That Charlie, we should do this.
We should do the next. Yeah,
you know
expansion draft.
Expansion draft. Who you protect and why? But the NRL should just do it for when the 18th team come in.
Yeah,
like just a cut. Like, can you imagine that?
The Dolphins will be like, what?
Yeah, the Dolphins will be fuming. But, oh, God, an expansion draft will be so much fun.
Yeah.
And public knowledge as well. You'd have to make it public knowledge, the 3 players that are protected.
We will do this as a bonus podcast before the season starts.
That's a lot of work to get done.
Yeah.
Each 17 teams.
Yeah, 3 teams. We'll forget about the Dolphins because probably wouldn't pick any of them.
Well, the Dolphins aren't going to... Oh, you mean for the 18th? Yeah. All right.
Finally, then we'll do the Panthers. They're looking for a 3-peat, but it's really, really hard to do a 3-peat. I didn't realize it hadn't happened since when Sterlo and Co did it with the Eels. I didn't realize it's been that long.
It's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought one of those Broncos teams would have done it, or even the Roosters at some point.
Yeah. Well, I think that just goes to show
it's hard.
How hard it is and how, just how rare the opportunity is.
Yeah.
So the Panthers are in they have a really good opportunity to do it. What I would say about the Panthers, though, is like they've done really well injury-wise, health-wise. Like, can that, which is down to preparation and injury prevention.
A little bit of luck
involved as well.
So the Panthers haven't had an ACL injury in the last 5 years.
Do you know that off the top of your head?
Well, because I was reading some of the NRL physio posts the other day about ACL. So the Roosters have had the most. They've had like 5 in the last 3 years. But the Panthers were the worst. And then in the last 5 years, they haven't had a single one.
That knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. Yeah, so look, I mean, I guess, can they remain as fortunate on the injury front? I don't know. Obviously, then you look to last year when Cleary was out, O'Sullivan deputised. The young half that was coming through, he's gone to join the Dolphins. Oh, I can't remember. He played for Tonga. Katoa, yeah, that's right.
Isaiah Katoa,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, he played for Tonga in the World Cup and looks a sensational talent. So, look, there's probably about 10 players that no one knows about just yet that are waiting to already, prepared for first grade. They won the New South Wales Cup and all the other competitions. So, they've got the production line ready to go.
They come back to the pack, though, slightly. You lose kick out because also kick out and attack is amazing, but the ball pressure he puts on is like it's the best in the NRL probably.
Well, a lot of Penrith's success last year, we looked to the superstars like Cleary, Edwards, Luai, the backfield carries from people like Toto, but their defensive pressure, like that's how they attacked through their defense, and Kickout was the man.
He led the way.
Look at like his attention to the kicker on last play for the opposition, like Jesus Christ. Imagine being where is he?
Yeah, where is he?
Like,
when
and
that
blonde hair that just sticks out, and like imagine trying to put a kick on, you'd be like, oh God, where is kick? I'm going to stand about 15 meters deeper just so he doesn't get me. But again, so losing him and the defensive pressure that he brings, but also Coruscant is such a loss. I'm really intrigued to see how the Panthers play without him. Couple of reasons. The deception that he brings out of dummy half. And again, I spoke about, you give Cleary and Luai so much attention, but you can't forget about Coruscant. So he sucks you in first, and then he distributes the ball to Yo, and then distributes the ball to Cleary or Luai. But without that level of threat from Coruscant, will teams gamble a little bit more by either spacing out or not focusing as much on Sonny Luke or whoever goes into that dummy half role? I think there's a fair chance that will happen. And then also, if you look at the back end of how the Panthers played, they moved Coruscant to the bench, which I think helped them. So they played Mitch Kenny at 9, and or maybe Sonny Luke and Mitch Kenny. Like, does Mitch Kenny demand as much attention as Coruscant? No. Like, he's still got a very strong game, but he's not got the level of deception, speed, or skill set that Coruscant has. So I think their tactics were, let's start really fast. They did this in the grand final, flew out the blocks, and everyone knows, well, we've got Appy coming on after 20 minutes. So he's going to provide that lot of spark, and we win the game in the first 20. And then Appy will just sail us home. So they at the moment, I mean, like I say, that production line's coming through, but they don't have that tactic at their disposal at this moment in time, which I thought was a masterstroke from Coach Cleary last year. An absolute masterstroke to have, that towards the back end of the season and in finals, that's what they went with. And, a lot of people, why is Coruscant on the bench? Well, that's why.
They still your favourites for the premiership?
I think the Roosters are.
Okay.
If they can gel, if they can come together, I think they are. And then Penrith would be a close second.
Yeah. Well, that's probably it for this first week back, I'd say.
I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
Yes.
Geez, we've gone.
I'm looking forward to the expansion draft. I think that's a great idea the NRL should do. And then you can take 2 players from each team, basically.
Oh, now you can steal 2 players.
Steal 2 players, yeah. So you lock your 3, but then if you're the new team, you can take 2 from each team. That team's probably going to be too good, though. Maybe you let them lock a few more.
No. 3 only. Yeah. Make it, the more controversial, the better.
Yep. Well,
and if you want a better documentary than
Bad Boys, Bad Boys.
The Last Dance.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Yeah, and I probably need to watch The Last Dance as well, don't I?
You should. How many parts? It's like 3 parts Bad Boys, isn't it? 3-part doco.
No, it's just one.
Just the one.
Yeah, 30 for 30,
Yeah.
Yeah, very good doco. If there's any anyone out there as well that's got some good sport and documentaries.
Sunderland Till I Die is pretty good.
Yeah, seen that. Yeah.
Do you like the Amazon ones, like the tests and stuff like that?
No, I've not watched
Test is apparently pretty good about cricket. You a cricket man at all? Not really.
Not really.
Yeah, well.
I mean, to go and watch, and
yeah.
If there's anyone out there wants to send us free tickets for the Ashes, okay.
Oh, no.
I tell you what's a good last point, good sporting podcast. There is a documentary at the minute about Fragrant Foul, about the refereeing scandal. But there's a podcast series called Whistleblower that goes into a bit more detail on the refereeing scandal in the NBA.
Oh, nice.
Crazy.
Is this the one who was betting on the games and stuff like that?
Yes. Point shaving.
Yeah, it's easy to do in NBA as well.
Oh,
because you can just call a foul incorrectly.
Yeah. I don't really watch basketball. Not really that much of a fan of it. Respect the sport, but I'm not much of a spectator for it. But yeah, this Operation Fragrant, the Whistleblower podcast. It's amazing what was going on behind the scenes, and almost the conclusion that they sort of point the finger to even higher up. And yeah, it's interesting sports governance. We're talking about a CBA. I don't think it's crazy what can happen. And thankful we have a sport where I think overall, our leaders of the sport, and I've got to say this, I think they do a fantastic job. Unfortunately, this sort of stuff has to be played out in the public, but I think as a sport in general, for our governance, we've got it pretty good.
I agree.
All good. All right, Charlie. We'll catch everybody next week here on the Buy Round Preview Show.
Name TBC.
Name TBC.
Let us know.